Team Novi Bor has reached the finals of the European Online Club Cup 2021, and a big role in that was played by Vidit Gujrathi. He scored 3.5 points out of 5 in the second stage, where the top three teams out of six in their group qualify. Novi Bor finished second, and they have now gone to the final stage where the 10 teams, 10 best European Club Cup teams will fight it out for the medals on 30th and 31st of March. Now, Vidit played a big role in his team's success because he scored two important wins on the day. He scored 3.5, two wins and three draws. Those two wins came against two very solid players. One was against Matthias Bluebaum of Germany, whose game we are going to witness now, and the next one was against Pavel Eljanov. I was thoroughly impressed by his victory against Bluebaum because it consisted a brilliant opening novelty. Let's have a look. So d4 was what Vidit opened his game. He's playing just exclusively d4, d5, c4, e6, knight to c3, knight f6, and Vidit kept it calm with knight f3. Of course, more ambitious ways are to play the main line of QGD and all of that, but Vidit said, let me just go back and to knight f3, and Bluebaum instantly played the Ragozin. Now, playing the Ragozin against Vidit is a double-edged sword because Vidit himself plays it with black, so he has very good knowledge in it. And when a player plays an opening with black, it could be a good idea to try it against him with white because it's his favorite opening, and then he's like, how do I play against it? Bishop g5 by Vidit, h6, he takes, and queen a4 check. Now in this position, you have to play knight c6. So the idea is to just provoke this move because you have to defend the bishop, and then go e3, castling, bishop e2, and bd7. So all sorts of threats are in the air now. There could be knight takes d4 with the idea of knight c2 and so on. So with it, just drop back his queen. Here d takes c4, queen takes c4, and queen to e7. The main aim of playing queen to e7 is that you want to defend the bishop. So that next move you can go knight a5 and prepare the move c5. Now if I just look at the online database on ChessBase, like I press enter here, you will see that a lot of games, 26 games have already reached this position. Okay, and the majority of them continued something like this: castling, knight a5, queen d3. It might be a bit too risky to take this pawn, because rook c8 and black gets play. So queen d3, c5, a3, c4, queen c2, bishop d6, and black is doing pretty okay. Like you go knight e4 and then b5, and black has had no issues here. Okay, so here is where a top level player like Vidit has to come up with the goods because he's facing an opponent who is well versed with this theory. So in order to beat such a player, he can't go down the trodden path. He has to find something new. And look at what Vidit comes up with. He comes up with the move. If you want to guess, it's actually quite deep. That's what Vidit has spent hours preparing for. But if you want to try, pause the video and think about it. So Vidit comes up with the move rook d1. Now the depth of this move is immense, and I'm going to tell you all about it. But the idea is very, very simple, that you don't want to castle right now. Why don't you want to castle? You'll get to know. So Bluebaum said, well, it seems I can do the same stuff again, because after queen d3, now, queen d3, I can go c5. And he saw very clearly that d takes c5, this attack on the bishop is no longer a problem. So I just play rook f d8, and then later on I'll collect this pawn, maybe bishop comes here. It's not a big deal. Of course, Vidit's plan was not that. He played a3, same stuff, c4, queen c2, bishop d6. And now you ask yourself, well, rook d1 is a very useful move. Why? Because you have not castled. And what is Vidit's next move now, guys? Pause this video to figure out what did Vidit do here. Simply stunned his opponent. G4. Really amazing. You know, he's already planning for H4, G5. Now, always remember, when your opponent has played H6, it's like a hook. You can latch onto it. And so with G4, Vidit wants to latch onto that hook and use his queen here, the rook here, and the knight who can jump in to G5. My question also at this point was, why can't Vidit play rook c1 here instead of, he played rook d1? Why not rook c1? Isn't it the same? For that, you have to go even deeper. Okay, so after g4, black went for the move f5. Now Vidit played rook g1, and if at this point the rook was on c1, a very strong move would have been bishop c6. However, because the rook is on d1, bishop c6 isn't that great, because after d5 you have pressure down the d file with the rook and the knight. This is the level of opening prep, guys, and it might seem for me quite easy to decode once it is played, but when it is not played, to actually formulate this entire idea, hats off to Vidit and his hard work. So fg4, rook takes g4. It could also be that his team found out, you know, he might have a team of seconds and they found out together. e5, hitting the rook. So what black is hoping for is to open up the position so that his pieces can start attacking the king that is in the center. However, with its pieces are just very solid here. He went back rook g1, although a better move would have been rook e4. Well, it's possible that Vidit was afraid of bishop f5, you know, pinning the rook here. However, after d takes e5, white is simply better. Bishop c5, I go queen a4. Well, if you take here, I can take back, and then eventually take. This is attacked, and this should be better. So he went rook g1, bishop c6. I think bishop f5 was the last chance here for black to be in the game, because here, although white is better, it's still, the position is very, very complicated in a way. When you have a king here and some weakness here, it could get messy. But he went bishop c6, and now after takes, queen went to g6, queen f6, and after the queen trade, this is quite simple for Vidit now, because he went in and attacked with knight d5. Now look at this beauty of this variation. If you take the knight, this is hanging. If you save it, then your c4 pawn is hanging. If you play b6, I'll go bishop h5, and now with my rook well placed, the other rook well placed, maybe I'm threatening rook d7, and my central pawns beginning to roll. It's just winning position for white. So therefore, Bluebaum went rook f7, but he missed that after bishop h5. He's completely lost here, because first of all, e7 is covered by the knight. d7, if he goes here, then there could be d7 is met with knight f6 check. Notice that there is a pin here, so you lose the rook. And if you go rook f8, then I have knight e7 check. Let's say you go king h7, I take, you take, I go here. This is hanging, and it is game over. So Bluebaum had to give up an exchange, but now Vidit mopped it up very nicely. An important move here, guys, when you're winning, be very careful to be accurate. Rook g4, hitting this pawn, rook d8, but now again, very accurate move. White to play, try to take your time and finish off your opponent. Don't give him a chance. Very important intermediate move, check. Now if king goes here, knight e7 check, king g6 also met with knight e7. King can't go anywhere where there is a deadly check, but it doesn't have a square. He had to go to e8. Check, takes, check, take on g7, take on c4, and the rest is trivial. Rook b4 traps the knight, and Vidit had won the game. What a brilliant game, guys. You have to agree, right? It was beautifully played by Vidit, And kudos to him for finding this new idea, Rook D1. As you can see in the online databases, 0 games found here. No one has played it before. This is an opening novelty that will bear with its name for years to come. Great job by him. I would just like to quickly run you through the next game of his, which was not as spectacular as this one, but it was a nice one. I mean, he beat Eljanov. Eljanov is a very strong GM from Ukraine, and at the World Cup in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, he reached the semi-finals, and his highest elo, believe it or not, has been around 2750. So that is why he is a world class grandmaster. And Vidit managed to put him under a lot of pressure. So Vidit was white. He opened with d4, knight f6, c4, e6 was played, uh, knight f3, b6. The queen's Indian. And Vidit has this line with bishop f4. He's played it with Navara before. It's kind of a way to avoid big theoretical discussions. At the same time, it's a line that is building up right now, theory. Because main moves are knight c3, and you also want to put your bishop often on g5. Okay, d6, knight c3, knight e4. It's always a good idea for black to exchange these pieces. But I like Vidit's play here. He just simply exchanges couple of minor pieces, has the space advantage, gains more space with b4, gains more space with e4. And I look at these pawns here. So white is slightly better because of space. Queen c8, h3, queen b7, rook b1. And now both sides trying to move here and there, and finally with it goes d5. e5, bishop went back. Now the plans are pretty clear. What white wants to do eventually is play knight e1, knight d3 and go for c5 break. Black would try to, exchange a few pieces down the a file. f5 is not easy to engineer. If that was possible, great, but here his pieces are a bit discoordinated. So queen a7, rook fc1, h6, knight e1. Vidit goes for his plan to engineer c5. And here is the moment where I thought Vidit played a great move. When your pawn is attacked, natural instincts say save it with f3. But that's not how top GMs play. They use economy of forces. For example, is this truly hanging? Hey, there could be a discovered attack. If he takes on e4, I can take on e5, attacking his knight. And with that logic, Vidit moved ahead with c5. If black had taken on e4 here, then after knight e5, there's a fork looming large here, so you have to take this guy, and after queen e4, white is simply better. So Vidit played c5, he took on c5, pawn takes, queen a4, exchanges the queen, and now saves the pawn, rook a3, the knight is attacked, rook d1, saving it. And here after bishop c5, white is definitely better because c7 is weak, there's pressure, but you could have continued like rook d3, and now if you take back with the rook, then you lose the c5 bishop, so you take on e7, rook d1, rook d1, rook b8, bishop f6, gf6, rook c1. And I think Vidit can press this position for long, but it should be an objectively a drawn position. However, Eljanov got so flustered here, I believe. He just played bishop d6, or maybe was it a mouse slip? I'm not sure. And Vidit simply picked up the rook and he resigned here. So that's how Vidit managed to win his games. 2 games he won, the rest 3 were drawn. And this is how things stand here. If you look, just to show you guys, just a second, this is how the teams are. Yeah, so in the playoffs, group A, the top 3 teams that finished here are Ladia Kazan, Hamburger Shark Club, Clichy Essex. So a Russian, a German and a French team. In group B, where Vidit was playing, and also Shashi Kiran and Hari Krishna in the same team, Odlar Yurdu finished at the top. That's the Azeri team having Mamedyarov. Novi Bor, that's the team of Vidit Hari and Shashi Kiran. They finished second. SF Dizao finished third. And how did the team do overall? Team pairings of all rounds. So if you look here, or sorry, team composition. Yeah. So Hari Krishna played only 2 games and scored half a point there. Vidit scored 3.5 out of 5. Wojtaszek scored 3 out of 5. Navara 3 out of 4, which is fantastic. Shashi Kiran 1.5 out of 2, and Marcus Rager 2, half out of 2. And finally, the C group has Medny Stadnik, that is the Russian team, 4 NCL Guildford from England, and Poland Hussars. So these 9 teams, along with one wild card, that is the women's winners team, Monaco team, will make it into a 10-player now round robin event, which will be played today and tomorrow. And we hope that Novi Bor, the team which has Vidit, Hari Krishna, and Shashi Kiran, come out on top. As of now, Vidit has been playing phenomenally well in this tournament, and we wish him all the best. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from his games. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.